The Jetta is often seen as a plain, run-of-the-mill economy car, but I believe it's more than just that. So let's check out this 2014 Jetta 1.8 Turbo and find out. For starters, the exterior styling of the Jetta is one of my favorite parts of the car. It has a grown-up and sophisticated look to it, with lots of horizontal lines that give the car a solid yet elegant look and feel. And even with wheel covers and halogen headlights, the Jetta appears to be a more expensive car than it really is. But how does that translate to the rest of the car? Here we are inside the Volkswagen Jetta, and a lot of people have critiqued this interior for being cheap and just not very well made. And I can kind of see what they're talking about. The dashboard is cheap, hard plastic. The door panels are also hard plastic. You can hear how hollow it sounds, and the material flexes pretty easily as well. There's a couple odd panel gaps and whatnot here and there on the door panel, but apart from that, the fit and finish is good. The panel gaps are tight, and nothing feels like it's going to just fall apart, you know? The steering wheel is kind of a sporty 3-spoke design, but it's not leather wrapped, and on this base SE model, the rim is kind of an odd shape. If you go for the convenience package on this car, you get a nicer steering wheel that's leather wrapped, and you also have audio controls on the steering wheel at that point, and Bluetooth, all of which this car doesn't have. So it's kind of odd being a compact car in 2014 and not having Bluetooth. That's odd, but if that's not something you really care about, then this is fine. The radio is pretty simplistic. It just has a basic dot matrix display, but you do get satellite radio, which is pretty cool, and it does show the song artist and the song name and all that. And the climate control just has 4 fan speeds, but you can dial in the temperature and pretty much wherever you want the air to come out of. So instead of like a standard defrost, vent, floor, whatever, you can actually dial in pretty much anywhere in between and get a combination of pretty much whatever you want. So that's really cool. I also like the instrument cluster. It's pretty elegant and simplistic, but it's easy to read, and it does have a very small trip computer in the center display, so you can have the speed showing, or the average fuel economy, range. You can even set a speed warning, so like I had mine set at 25 miles an hour the other day, and every time I hit 25 miles an hour it would ding and it would flash up on the display that I reached my speed warning. This shifter also feels very nice. It has a nice solid clunk to it when you shift into gear, and it just feels well made. There's also a vinyl shift boot, which helps it look a little bit nicer. The cup holders seem to be a pretty good size, and I really like the armrest. It's adjustable, it slides back and forth. It also goes up and down, so you can have the height adjustment and forward and backward, which is really nice. There's a lot of room in this interior as well. Here in the front seat, you can see the dash is very short. It doesn't stick out very far from the window. So it opens it up in here, makes it a little bit roomier, and it's very wide. So like on the door panel here, there's a small armrest. I have to stretch out a little bit to actually rest my arm on it. And like I said, the center console adjusts perfectly fine, so you get a lot of space in this car, and there's quite a bit of legroom as well. It seems open and airy, which is nice. And the seats are kind of flat. They don't have a whole lot of support, but once you find their perfect position, they're very comfortable. Even the back seat of the Jetta has lots of space. You sit a little bit higher up than you do in the front, so you get a good view out. And also, there's tons of legroom. So I have the seat in front of me set to where I like it. And I've still got a couple of inches before my knees will actually hit the seat in front, which is nice. It's pretty wide as well, and the seats back here are also very comfortable. So it's nice that Volkswagen has thought about rear seat passengers just like they think about front seat passengers as far as comfort and room goes. There's also a power outlet in the back, which is really cool, and you get a couple storage cubbies. There's a fold down armrest with 2 cup holders, so if you're sitting in the back, it's really not going to be that bad. Jetta's trunk is the largest in its class at 15.5 cubic feet. It also has split folding rear seats, so you can put longer items in the car very easily. One thing I've always liked about Volkswagens is the attention to detail, and that is certainly still alive here in this 2014 Jetta. For one, I really like the sound of the turn signal. It makes just like a calming, gentle clicking sound. Also, the roof is laser welded as opposed to spot welded, which makes it stronger and just looks nicer because it doesn't have that ugly black weather stripping covering up the spot welds. Also, the body panels are made out of 18 gauge steel, which is thicker than traditional 22 gauge steel. There's turn signals in the side mirrors. You get Sirius satellite radio on this pretty basic car. The key feels very well made and well put together. The doors open and close with a very solid clunk. You can even hear it in just the handle. Also, the locks. The locks amuse me quite a bit. Listen to how solid and clunky that sounds. It just gives you a very satisfying feeling every single time you get in and out of the car. Volkswagen has always advertised that they make cars that people want to drive, and they're big on advertising their German engineering. So let's see how this car handles and find out if it's something you really want to drive. Come around this corner here, and there's quite a bit of body roll initially, but once the car kind of gets settled, it does pretty well. It grabs on and doesn't let go very easily. Alright, we're going to take this pretty tight corner here. And once again, we can see there's a little bit of body roll right as soon as you start to get in the corner. But it kind of stiffens up as you get to the middle of the corner and settles and grabs on. The steering is also really good, especially when you're driving it hard. It's pretty light, but it definitely has good feel. So I've driven cars with much, much worse steering than this, so I think this is great. The brakes aren't super responsive. In fact, they feel a little bit dead, but the throttle response is awesome. As soon as you put your foot into the pedal, it just gets up and goes, and the downshifts are very smooth with this 6-speed automatic. The ride quality can be a little bit bouncy at times, and especially at lower speeds, there's a decent amount of road noise, and it has kind of a hollow sound the way it transmits through the car, but you kind of grow to like that, and it makes you feel connected to the car. This isn't necessarily a sporty car, but for an economy car, it has a good connected feel, and it's pretty sprightly and eager, especially on some twisty back roads like this. I think this handles just as well as my Accord Coupe, maybe even better. For 2014, they did actually change the rear suspension to an independent setup, and it seems to have helped out quite a bit. I've driven Jettas before, and I don't remember them being quite this good at handling corners. In the older Passats and Beetles, Volkswagen offered a 1.8 turbo engine, and they've kind of brought it back in a sense. It's not the exact same engine, but it's pretty similar in terms of numbers at least. It's a 1.8 liter turbocharged inline-4, makes 170 horsepower, and in this Jetta it is very, very good. I like it a lot. So peak torque of 184 foot-pounds comes on at just 1500 RPM. So it takes just like a split second to really get going, but once it does, it just takes off and you have immediate power. So I think that kind of helps out the response as well, which is partially due to the transmission, partially due to the engine. But when you're coming up from a stop and you want to get into it, you've got plenty of power there to really get you going. When you're behind the wheel of the Jetta, you get a good view of the road. The visibility is wonderful. The A-pillars are thin, so it's easy to see around, and the side windows are pretty large, so it's easy to see to the side of you. The only thing I don't like is the D-pillar looks a little bit too wide from the inside of the car, so it might be kind of difficult to see what's in your blind spot. But you've got mirrors to help you out with that, and if you want a blind spot monitoring system, you can certainly get that on a higher end model. If I'm honest, I've really enjoyed my time with the Jetta SE. Yeah, it's not the TDI with the stick shift that I've always wanted to own, but it's still an exciting and very comfortable car. If you want an economy car just to get around in, I would highly recommend the Jetta SE. Yeah, the fuel economy isn't the greatest, but it has lots of power, it's very comfortable, and it's quite fun to drive. You can also pick it up pretty cheaply, and if you can get one that's certified, I would certainly go for it.